Ah, it's always weird, man. We're live. Like it's always weird, like when I host the show, because now I get it. Like abilities, like, oh, dude, we're live. Like now I see it, so like I don't have to wait for the cue. But now it's just sort of like a thing. So,
Yeah.
hello and welcome to another edition of the Thursday Throwdown. As always, I am your host, X to the D to the A to the L to the Y. And I think this is technically still the longest running episodic show in 239 history. So we're here. We're ready. I do apologize. We have been a little bad with the promoting the post. I know it's been kind of up in the air, like when shows are going to get done, things like that. But guys, it's summer season. It's been a bit rough for everybody. I've had personally a busy summer with work more so than usual. So that is 100% a thing. So whoever's watching right now, if people are looking for the show, I think Pale is going to post the link in the
Done.
chat box.
In
He did that.
shout box on the forums in the article section, so it's on the main page right there. Should see
So
it.
like we're gonna get back into making sure that this is happening every week. We've all been stupid busy this summer. Not just our show. I mean, the elitists have basically been non-existent, and the bro shows on and off. So it's just summertime is rough for everybody, man. I was on vacation last week, so I know there wasn't a show. Cortez has moved about 47 times in the last 3 weeks. But we're here, man. So we got a light panel today. It might be kind of a soft show, a shorter show, but we are going to touch on some things. But before I get into that, as always, Pale Poner, ride or die, one time for the homies. How's it going, man?
Done all right, man. Ready to do our show and ready to play Yambag tonight. It's exciting.
Hey, listen, man. That team is coming off a sweep
Two
of
sweep.
two sweeps back to
Two,
wait.
two 6-0-0 teams going at each other over the last two games, two
Who
series.
else did they sweep?
You.
No, we swept them.
Oh.
Yeah, we beat
I'm
the
totally
Braves.
wrong there.
Yeah,
I was looking at the wrong scores, I guess.
No, that's okay. I'll forgive you this time, but we actually beat the brakes off Yambag. It wasn't even close. It really wasn't. So with that said, I want to do a little something I like to call it's 239 math, and it's a direct knockoff of what the MMA does. And for all you MMA fans out there, they have this theoretical thing called MMA math, which basically is like this guy beat this guy, then this guy beat this guy, and this guy ended up beating the guy that beat him. Like, who's really the best? Like, how does this work out? So I'm gonna take like, and this is gonna be like a one-off segment, but I think this really does prove the importance of matchups, and that just because a team may necessarily, is better ranked, has a better record, like this is where all the variables come into play. So I'm going to take one example that I know like specific is like a thing. So take Thamps' team. So Thamps played my team and they swept us off the mat, man. They beat the living piss off us, different things like that. Well, as I stated earlier, we played Yambag's team and we absolutely beat the brakes off them. We swept them, did the whole bit. Well, then Yambag comes back and they sweep freaking Thamps. So you have this dynamic where Thamps beat Daly beat Yam, and then Yam beat Thamps. Now, obviously, there's been trades, different things have happened, but again, is this safe to say? And this is just one example of this. This has actually happened a ton this season. But this is just another example of how important certain teams match up against others, Pale, or is this just a factor of trades and different things like that?
I think it's both. I think matchups are a big part of this league. I think there's definitely certain styles that certain people play, and um, when you're playing a Regretsky's team that they're gonna probably dominate time on attack, and they're gonna have a lot of plays out of that corner on your defensive left-hand corner. And that's just the way that it plays because he's such an impactful player for that team. And there's a lot of individuals like that. There's a lot of teams that are made up of certain players, and those different styles match up against each other differently. But at the same time, yes, you're right. There's also trades that happen. Teams go in slumps, or they go flying high at the right time or the wrong time. I think that's a real thing too. I think some teams get frustrated and might frustrate themselves, or they might be so confident that it's just really tough to play them when everything's going right.
Well, let's introduce the two guys that have joined. It's starting to get that like OG feel to it right now. Dolly, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. It's rare that I have a Thursday to jump on, so I'm excited to be here again tonight.
And I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Pale, but not before I introduce Mr. Ryan Randall, the Ability One. Welcome.
Ability One. I like that. Except I haven't won anything recently.
We're gonna, hey man, listen, we're gonna talk about your team because I mean, early on, it seemed like you guys were running and shit's happened, trades have been made, the whole bit. So basically, before you guys jumped on, and Dolly, you might have heard what I was kind of getting at. I was doing this thing called 239 math. It's similar to what happens in that of like the MMA, where like this fighter beat this fighter beat this fighter, but then the fighter who beat that fighter beat that one. So the example I gave was this: Thamps actually beat my team in a sweep. We were able to then come back and sweep Yam, and then Yam actually ends up sweeping Thamps. So we have this dynamic, which really brings up matchups, and I think that's a big thing. And I know there's trades that were made and different things like that, but it's been very, very common within this season. Is the matchup almost as important as maybe the players on the team? Because sometimes these rosters are stacked. Like in no world should Yam's roster ever beat Thamps' roster, but they were able to get it done and they were able to sweep. So sorry, let me rephrase the question. So Dolly, do you think that the matchup is more important and people, or the styles of play are more important and people buying into that style and playing that style rather than maybe the skill set of the players on the ice?
Okay, well, let's start with this. I think the most important thing to note is that the teams have been changing drastically. Yam's changed drastically from when you played to when they played Thamps. And in particular with Thamps' team, I think they're a product of never changing their style. They have something that worked for them very well last season, and it started out pretty good this season, but people have caught on. And so adapting those strategies to play against a team that never changes their way makes it much easier to defeat them. As for the parity, though, I mean, I think that's really a product of, for the most part, the captains that were selected this year are pretty freaking smart. Most of them are adaptable players who know how to run different styles or play different people. And that's rubbing off on the other 5 players on the ice. And it creates a very good level of parity for the league. And it gives us the opportunity to see upsets, and it gives us the opportunity to see what we're seeing right now, where even a team that's currently mathematically eliminated can go out and still beat the next 2 series, like the next 2 teams that they play.
And looking at this too, and I think you bring up a really good point. Now, there's teams like Yambag who, I mean, by all accounts, 27 games played, they got 13 points, but they went out there and they swept the Thamps team, although struggling. And I think Dolly made a nice point in adjustments and things like that. But be the Thamps team that, you know, is pretty well secured in the 3 seed right now. Not well secured, but they do have a nice little push. There's some teams with games in hand, 6-9, the whole bit. But, you know, they went out, a last place team, and beat a statistical top 3 team. Now, I think all of us at this point with Thamps' team struggles aren't going to put them in that top 3. I know they're there right now, but there's games in hand. But you have this things now. So you have, you know, Drug Monkey. They play my team tonight. So both those teams have 18 and 17 points. Not very high. One of those teams sweeps tonight, though. All of a sudden, that puts a little bit of pressure on the 8 seed, which is right now Schwartz. Even though there's games in hand here, that team has been struggle bust for the last couple series, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But all of a sudden, although teams may not mathematically be eliminated, but every game kind of matters, even for these teams that are sitting, you know, well outside the race. Because if you go on a run and you get hot at the right time, all of a sudden everything changes. So again, I feel like Jelly at the 9 seed, like he's 1 point out of a playoff spot, and there's only 3 games in hand here. So there's a lot of teams that can make some noise here. There's a lot of teams that can make a run, and at worst case can definitely play spoiler, because with Yam beating a team like, excuse me, like Thamps' team, it kind of shows anybody can win on any given night. So let's transition this into ability. Schwartz and the boys have been struggling of late, and you're obviously the netminder there. again, I just kind of want to know, and I'll let everybody kind of touch on this. A trade was made. Schwartz ends up moving. He picks up Shea, and a trade with Dom. Did he move Pogs in that deal? Was that the deal?
No, it was just Shea for Rocco, 1-for-1.
Oh, Shea for Rocco. So he ended up getting I'm sorry, you guys got Pogs in it, or they got Pogs in a different deal. So the lineup, basically what it looks like right now is Shea's at center, and I'm Ryan, I'm sure you can, kind of give us the lineup on this. I'm sure Schwartz, Donnywood, Easy Real are up front, or is Saney playing defense now? Kind of touch on your team a little bit ability and give us some of the information, because right now it's kind of like a hodgepodge and it looks like it go a couple different ways.
So, to my knowledge, I believe that at least the way we're going to run it at this moment is going to be Donnie Wood's going to play left wing. We're going to have I call him Ski because I can't pronounce this.
Yeah, it's Shea.
Shea. Okay, so he's going to be our centerman, and Schwartz is going to be playing right wing. I think we're going to move Viper to left D, and I think Mike Scott's going to be playing my right D.
Man. Well, I'm going to listen. I'm not, unless you want to touch on your team and how you feel about the roster, the lineup, you can. I won't put you on the spot like that. I don't know if you want to touch.
Oh, no, man. I got a few choice words. So I think that the problem with my team, as it sits currently, is that no one really knows what's going on. And I don't mean that like Schwartz isn't doing a good job captaining. He's definitely doing a good job. He's keeping everybody informed on what he wants to do. But I think that everybody in the back of their mind just doesn't quite have, I want to say, the hashtag chem. I think that's been our biggest problem. We had it for a minute. And I thought that it was going to keep going. And then trades happen. I think when trades happen, sometimes you lose a little bit of that because then all of a sudden it's like your family's broken. And I feel that a little bit. So I'm assuming that some of the other guys might feel that too. And then, sometimes when you're in a team chat, people get a little emo, and that can create a little negativity, and that may or may not have happened. I can't really comment on that a whole lot, but sometimes shit like that happens and it can be the demise of a team. And I think that what we've seen in the last couple of series from my squad is a little bit of all that rolled into one and smoked up really well. So, yeah.
You look at the roster, and here's the thing, and I know Dolly and Dom will swear up and down that they changed this guy and that he was great and all these different things. I feel like if he was all those things, and the player I'm about to talk about is Shea, I feel like he wouldn't have been moved. Now, granted, getting a guy like Pogs is incredibly it's rare to be able to get a guy like that. I found Shea to be more of a winger than a center. I felt defensively he could be a bit rough. Granted, we weren't scoring goals, so there's a lot of different factors that do play in. But when you put Shea on this roster with what I saw, and again, those things could have changed. This is just my own analysis. You have Schwartz, who is a very give me the puck with space kind of guy. He likes to shoot the zone, likes to fly the zone. Donnie Wood's like that D-man, but he's also a forward. So maybe there's that, I don't know, that difficulty, transitioning up. I'm not exactly sure, but I feel, at least in my personal opinion, having Donnie Wood and Saney on defense makes sense, and I think people will shit on me for this, but I think lefty is Donnie Wood's best position. Saney is actually a really good defenseman. I really like him back there, and he doesn't get enough credit. I don't think he is the same forward that he used to be. And then you put Viper up front with Shea and Schwartz, and all of a sudden you have this interesting dynamic. Viper was a guy that was potting goals at a crazy rate. Shea is a guy who can create offensively, and then Schwartz is obviously a monster. So again, I feel this team is definitely still a playoff team. They're going to have to figure it out quickly. But Dolly, when I bring up Shea, I saw you shaking your head no. Obviously, we have different opinions on it, but what do you think about Schwartz's team? What do you think about Shea? What do you think about all the factors playing in here?
Let's start with Shea. The reason why I was shaking my head no is because of why he was moved. He was moved because Pogs and I work better when we're closer together. It's very similar to the Hot Heroes in season 5. If Russ had played center and Marty right wing, we would have had more chemistry and scored more goals. It's just because we see things the same way. So moving Pogs closer to me made more sense. Also, as you know, Shea was still struggling with faceoffs. That's something that he needed to improve. Defensively, though, he listened to everything we said, and he was quite good. He's a versus player. He's not used to having to come back with the same damn character every damn play. So if you gently remind him throughout the game, like 100 times, he will listen to you, and he does a great job. So that's why we moved him. We moved him because putting Pogs at center and Dom at right wing created a better flow for our team, and not because he wasn't a good player, because he was great for us. We only lost one series with him out of like 7, so couldn't have been that bad. As for Schwartz's team, I don't know. They have a lot of skill on the team, but it just seems like the pieces aren't fitting together. They're just not. Saney, he's a busy guy. I love him to death, but he just doesn't seem to have the heart that he used to. Saney used to get on this game every single day, all day, and play his heart out all the time. He just doesn't have the time anymore. He's not the same forward. He's not the same defenseman he used to be. I don't even know if he's a first-round pick anymore. I love the guy, but he'll admit it, and he complains about West Coast connection all the time. Well, it's an East Coast league. That's never going to change. I don't know why people are expecting any different of it. As for Schwartz, I mean, that lineup, if it's Viper, Shea, and Schwartz, I think they're going to struggle more than people realize, because it's 3 completely different styles of play. Those are 3 different styles that don't mesh together, and it will take a while to get that chem. I think the best lineup is Donnie Wood on D and Saney on D, but Saney's got to be out there giving it 100% every time, or you guys are going to need a lot more saves from ability, as we heard.
And Pale Man, when you take the full time dynamic and prioritizing 239, and again, Saney's a busy guy, but he's being drafted to be, especially in the second round, I think he was taken. He's being drafted to be this guy. Listen, I need my second round pick there every single night. Like, it's just something that has to happen. Work is and life is a thing, but is this maybe where he went wrong, taking Saney where he did?
I don't know. I mean, Schwartz is familiar with Saney. I'm pretty sure that they've played in other leagues together before, and like there's a familiarity there that they have with each other. So I don't know that was the mistake. I watched some of their series the other night against Regretsky's team, who, by the way, is like ridiculously good. But you hear Schwartz on there, and they're getting pounded 7-1, and he's like, I don't mind losing to this team, but losing 7-1 is embarrassing. And at some point they made a change. I think it was in game 3, and they looked a little bit better. But I mean, that was with Donnie Wood out of the lineup. I think they originally had Viper, Shea, and Schwartz up front, and then they had Donnie Wood and Ezreal on defense with ability and net. And I don't know. It just seems like there's a little bit of battling back and forth there in the locker room with how that interaction went. Donnie Wood didn't want to play right D. Schwartz really wasn't going to put him anywhere else when he moved Saney up. And, they ended up putting pounders in, and it was a much more competitive game. I think you guys went to overtime, ability.
Yeah, we
gave up a goal like with 30 seconds left, and then that went to overtime and lost. But I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with Schwartz's team. I think that there's a hole on right D that he's having trouble figuring out how to plug. And he traded Rocco for Shea. I mean, if you want to talk about where the hole is, I think it's right D, because I'm not sure that Ezreal really is that mainstay defenseman, or that guy that can be a good defenseman in this league, at least from what I saw the other night. He's still a great forward. He's a guy that's going to put up a ton of points, but I don't know that he's going to do it for you on D. And, I don't know. We'll see what happens with the team going forward. They got a lot of games in hand, and they've got a lot of wiggle room to move up in the standings and take control of their own fate. But we'll see what happens.
It's weird because, man, and you kind of segued me into this for talking about Regretsky's team. I was in a party with Brian, and D-Mart was in there the other night. And at this point, when you watch those guys play, anything other than them winning the cup this year is a failure. They are deep everywhere. And I know people are going to hate that I say that. And I look at the roster and I'm a captain, by the way. And how this roster is able to be constructed is beyond me. D-Mart, you had to take him there because of the name. and obviously he's developed. I do see some weaknesses in his game defensively, but when you're scoring goals at the clip that this team is scoring them, it's crazy. They can beat you in so many different ways. And you have a really high IQ guy like Brian or Noah Gretzky's, and he's running these crazy switch plays with Dan through the neutral zone. I saw Dolly made a comment the other day, just play better defense. And this is just a team where you look up and down. Holtby and Gretzky's have incredible chemistry, And maybe Holtby's not one of the greatest forwards in the world, but he works really, really well with Brian, and he wins a good amount of faceoffs. You move over to the left wing, and you have Annex Crispy over there, aka the other Winters brother, and he's a phenomenal guy that can change the game. Then you look at left D, and we're not even talking about Grish, which I personally think D is his best position. The weak spot, sober and net, maybe, but when you're scoring goals at the clip that they are, I just don't see how anybody beats this team in a 7-game series. There's a couple teams that I think can run and hang, but at the end of the day, I just think that this team is too overpowered. That's just my opinion. Dolly's laughing. Me and Dolly aren't agreeing today, but what do you think about this team, man? Like, where's the hole? Where's the hole on this team?
Sorry, I wasn't actually laughing at anything you were saying.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. I don't care either way,
but now that you brought that up and you put me on the spot, this team is beatable. We did beat them with Kelch on left D, missing 2 of our starters. I mean, it's a matter of focus. They're incredibly good, and it's not easy. It's not, and it's going to be extremely difficult to stay focused for 60 minutes straight against a team this good. They're probably the most skilled team on paper. They're probably the most skilled team in terms of teams that have played so far, but they are definitely beatable. They're very, very aggressive. And you know what? Fuck it, I'm just going to break it down anyway. I'll just give you guys the scoop, and if you figure out how to stop it, good for you. Look, Brian is a terrific player, but he does 2 things. He goes down the boards and he waits for you to come out and lunge at him and tries to throw the puck across, or he'll go take 2 strides towards the net and take a shot or pass it. That's it. That's it. He will stand on those boards and get 10 minutes time on attack and get 0 shots if you don't lunge at him. D-Mart is great. When Brian gets stuck like that, he'll give the puck back to D-Mart. D-Mart will come in and he'll wiggle his way through, because D-Mart's a great rush player. He always has been. He knows how to get by people. But if your center comes back and stands in his way, even if Brian comes to the line, hits D-Mart coming on the back, D-Mart comes in, gets past the winger. If your center goes right to the slot, D-Mart runs right into your center. Shit. Then what happens? What, they try and cycle it around the boards? Well, as soon as they get impatient and try and force it through you, you get the puck, go down the other way. And because their defense is so aggressive, you can capitalize on your few opportunities and outscore that team as long as you're patient. That's it. That's what we did. We had Kelch on D. Brian had 0 points. What do you want me to do?
I think the big thing I see with that team, Grish has taken on, and I've watched a couple of their games because I find it fascinating, because people will argue it's a 5-forward team. I feel like I've heard that a little bit. 5-forward team, hold on, whatever. Grish has really taken on that, like, hey, I'm going to kind of hang back, sort of thing. Not that D-Mart has been like bad, but D-Mart, you can tell sometimes like gets caught flat-footed, things like that, watching plays, things like that. It's tough, man. It's a really, really tough thing. And any forward going back to D, I know a lot of guys have done it. It is a tough dynamic, but I think it's fair to say this team is the team to beat. I want to send this to Ryan another way, because I want to talk about another team who's currently at the top of the standings right now, but really people aren't talking about. And I think the reason is that no one's talking about Cortez's team is I think that people see some glaring holes on this team. You got Tom FTW, Cortez EA, C-Dub, Brick, Wizzy, and Tomahawk. Now, when you hear those names out loud, it's fantastic. But I caught a rumor that Wizzy War is playing right D. I'm here to tell you something, and I like Wizzy War, but he's a forward. If Cortez is smart, he needs to slide himself back to right D, because I think Cortez is a better D-man than he gets credit for. And we're talking 7-game series here. I think Cortez and Dub back on D is a very, very tough dynamic. You have Tom and Brick, who, if you remember from the Victoria's Secret, yes, Ability, I'm giving you your Season 5 plug right now, but Ability and his boys won that cup, and Tom and Brick get each other. Yes, Brick played left D, but Brick was also extremely involved in that offense. So now you're giving him 2 good D, moving him up to play, and then Wizzy's kind of that third forward. To me, this is the dynamic that works. But I'll send it over to you, Ability. You've played with Tom. You've played with Brick. Is the smart move for Cortez to stay competitive? And again, who am I to judge? My team has like 7 wins. But is it smart for him to play Wizzy at his secondary position when Cortez is literally a really good right D?
I don't know enough about Wizzy's game on D. I mean, to make that call. But I can tell you that these guys right here, the only thing that's going to get in their way from being extremely competitive when it comes time for the playoffs is if they get in their own heads. So I think Tom, when we had season 5, Brick and Tom were probably playing at peak levels at that moment. Like that playoff run was excellent. But since then, both, in my opinion, hey, Brick, here I come at you again, buddy. I'll get another month of shit. Both of them, in my opinion, have kind of backpedaled since that season. Not necessarily by their own fault. I think both of them will probably, I will say it for them, but I think that some of the players that they've been surrounded with have kind of, impeded on their true potential. I mean, the last couple seasons.
Whoa. I'm going to stop you right there.
Whoa.
Brick City considers himself to be one of the best. Yes or no? Yes?
Yeah, of course.
If you are one of the best, you are making everybody around you better.
Well, he does that. Yeah.
He does?
Yeah, he coaches the shit out of people, whether they wanted to or not.
Yambag's team was a fucking mess. And then he went to Jelly's team, and Jelly's team was a fucking mess. So then he gets traded to the number 1 seed team, okay? To me, that doesn't sound like he's changing the game. Listen, I'm not one to talk. My team sucks. We've been struggle bus all year. But if you're considering yourself to be one of the best, you need to be making everybody around you better. He simply has not done that this year.
Hold on, I got to interfere with this one right here. So it took God 7 days, right, to create the earth and all the wonderful things around. Brick hadn't had enough time with either one of those teams this season for the hand of God to come into play and really have an impact on either one of those squads.
Because he talked his way off the fucking teams. Are you really going to have this dispute with me right now? You want to go here?
Hey, all I got to say, man, is
hi, my name is D-Swish, and I tried to go against Daly in a battle one time.
No, Ryan Randall tried to go against Daly one time and got smoked. I won't rap battle you, though, because I really enjoyed that piece. Well, hey, do you want to – I never heard the D-Swish side, but why did he do that? He was just trying to be funny and you owned him or what?
No, man. Long story short, I'll try and keep this very short. He said some stuff about Jelly and, Jelly's sibling, his sister, that I didn't like. And I said, D-Swish, dude, don't talk about people's family like that. And he's like, oh, I'm going to share it with the league. And I was like, dude, don't share it with the league or I'm going to paddle wax you. And 3 months later, there he goes, sharing it with the league on one of our media shows. And I was like, no, you got to be shitting me. And then he follows that up with a rap at me. What the fuck were you thinking, bro?
Yeah, man. The worst part about this is that obviously, Ryan, you and I talk behind the scenes, and I knew that you could rap because I've heard some of your stuff before. So when I'm sitting here and obviously summer's been busy for me and I heard that D-Swish decided to do something so stupid, I was like, oh my God, Ability's going to roast this fucking guy because I've heard Ability rap like he's good. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is not going to end well for this young lad. And then Ability did, he fucking roasted him. I enjoyed the hell out of it. As a matter of fact, funny story, I asked in the chat box, I'm like, let me hear D-Swish's version. And Ability instantly messages me and he's like, am I in trouble? I'm like, no, dude, I just want to hear it. Because anytime I get involved, he thinks that he's in trouble. But I actually just wanted to listen to it. So
well, the thing was too, when I came home that day after I had shared it with the league, my Mrs. Rebecca, she had listened to it and we had a serious conversation whether or not I should pull it off because we kind of felt maybe it was a little too aggressive. And poor kid, man. Sorry, D-Swish, man. You stepped in a pile of shit, bro.
Well, here's the reality, man. This is 239. You got to have some thick skin. You want to come in here, you've got to have some thick skin. And D-Swish opened this up, man. He opened this up and he got owned. What did he say about Jelly's and his sister? I don't know. What was the dialogue with that?
There were lyrics about fisting Jelly's sister.
Is Jelly's sister hot?
Jelly's sister is 14.
That is so weird, D-Swish. You are a strange individual. I asked the question because if she was older, then I might say pics, let us see, whatever. But 14, D-Swish, come on, man. That ain't even right, dude. That's wrong. That's wrong.
Well, I think D-Swish is 14 too. So.
Oh, is he? Well, that's still wrong. Aren't they homies?
Yeah, I think they all are. Oh. Yeah, Jelly and D-Swish and Cosmic and that whole crew, Lime.
Listen, man, I still have this dream doing young dad or old dad and the young lads as one of my teams one year. Cosmic, Jelly, Lime. I'll even put D-Swish. He sucks, but I'll put him on my team too. I want to get all the youngins on my team, man, just to try and compete, and old dad and the young lads, and see how that goes. But shout out to Ability. Shout out to D-Swish, man. Yo, shout out to Jelly, man. How about fucking Ability, man? Your captain winner from season 5 helping you out. So next segment I want to do, I want to talk about something that is a little bit different. Like, here's the thing. I want to touch on Dominator Silva's team in just a second. And I also want to touch on Josto's team in just a second. But there are 2 teams currently in the top 5 that I think are way fake. These are 2 teams that I think are fake as fuck. They are not the real deal, and they are going to have problems, especially come playoff times. Those teams are Thamps and Marty McFly. Now, let's start with Marty McFly. My team played Marty on Monday. Okay, and I had a roster that featured, shout out to, by the way, Scuba Dan, fucking great dude, by the way. If you get a chance to get him as a waiver, Scuba Dan was awesome. We ended up getting a 7-5 win in the first game. He messaged me after like game 2 and 3, man, how's everything going? Shout out to that fucking dude. He is a phenomenal guy, and for a guy who literally, Marty, this will make you that much more for your built-in excuses. This guy picked that game up that very day. That was his first games on here, and he was able to come and help the boys catch a 7-5 win in game 1. Shout out to Dan. Also, Marine Mike coming in cold with 4% packet loss comes out and getting us big fucking dubs in net. So a team, I didn't have Agent. I'll be honest with you guys. If I did have Agent, I think that we actually win this series. Personally, we were winning 1-0 game 3 up until the end. Marty McFly is not a defenseman. He got caught many a times flat-footed. It's just a new ground for him. I know he played a season before, but it's rough, man. It is rough going from forward to D. Dolly, you know all about that. Hollywood Bob, just a couple flaws in his game, man. And Jofus, Webb, and BTW looked all out of sync. They looked all out of sync. Sniper was great in games 2 and 3. Especially game 3, keeping them in it. But game 1, when Sniper's not on, I think that team really struggles. That's the big issue. So I'll send it over to you, Dolly. Like, you look at Marty's roster and you look at what they have. I mean, this is the team that's definitely, despite what their points say, is on the decline. Am I right?
Yeah. Look, they got some good players on that team, but I feel like their backhand is definitely the weakest part of their team. I've been saying it all season. They made a trade to get Chofis, and they still never fixed the hole that they, like I felt personally, that they had on the team, which was their defense. Marty, God bless him, is doing everything he can to try and put the best squad he can out there, but he would be more valuable playing wing or center with Webb and BTW and having an actual anchor on their D. Shout out to Sniper, though. I mean, he doesn't get enough credit. He has actually played very well for that team all season, coming back to goalie for the first time in a while. So good for him. But I don't think I think you're right. I think that they're going to drop a few. I don't think they're as strong as people would think drafting Webb and BTW. Everybody at the start, like the first half of the season, was saying that they had the best offense, but you could score 9 goals in a game and still lose 10-9. So, I mean, got to have a balanced team, and I really think you're right about this one.
So when I'm looking at the roster and I'm looking at the teams under them, Dominator Silva, you guys jumped them. Dolly, that's your team. You guys for sure jumped them. Joey Stopa, 3 points, and then games are even. Joey Stopa's team's been struggling a bit too. He ends up moving Cosmic. I like Belial's game. I think they jump Marty as wow, man. The coffee, sometimes it really gets to me. So I see Marty dropping the 5. That leaves Pale Poner, who's currently 6 points out. Pale's got a really light schedule the rest of the way. I think Pale Poner jumps Marty McFly. You could see Marty McFly ending up in the 7 or 8 seed. You get in the 7 or 8 seeds, I think that, now you're playing Regretskis, now you're playing Cortez. I don't think those are matchups they want. Marty and the boys control their own fate at this point. There are some games in hand, but for the most part, they control their own. They need to figure it out. They need to figure it out fast, because the last thing you want to do is get into that 7-8 seed and you're fucking bumping and grinding against one of those top 3 teams. With that said, Thamps is going to fall. Okay. And I think that Dominator Silva's team is going to end up being that 3 seed. I really believe that. So with that being said, because Dom is, wow, they got 9 games in hand and they're 8 points out. That's my 3 seed right now. And if they get into that 3 seed, now all of a sudden, if you're in that 6, 7, 8, those are tough matchups for these teams, especially a team like Marty that played so well early on. Those aren't matchups that you want round one. You don't want Cortez, you don't want Regretsky's, and you don't want Dominator Silva's team. And that's where they're trending. If they can sit in that 4-5 and they end up playing a Thamps' team, that's their best chance to make it into round 2, in my opinion. But I don't like any of those matchups for this team. The other team, and I'm going to send this to you, Pale, Thamps' team, the big 3 are still there. And when I say the big 3, that's Russ, that's Thamps, that's Kayla. And they had that great chemistry, and Dolly touched on it earlier, but they sort of teams figured them out, and I feel like now they're being exploited a little bit. True Therapy is great. This guy gets not enough credit on right D. Ultimately, when I traded him for Shock, I needed to move myself back to D. I like what Shock brings in the middle. It allowed me to move Quantum to right wing. That's why I did that trade. I think Shock's a very undervalued player for what he does offensively. But True Therapy is a really good stay-at-home guy. He can jump into plays, things like that. But from what I've seen, Thamps is in this world where it's him, Kayla, and Russ. Like, dude, you need to use fucking Shu. The guy is the real deal. And if you continue to look him off when he's coming through that neutral zone with speed, you are going to be in for a rough go. You need to utilize all of his assets. That's my personal opinion. Link Runner has been exposed as well. I think John Monkey is an upgrade on left wing. Not that Viper was playing bad, but I think John Monkey can create some space. I send this over to you, Pale, and I ask you the question. This team's falling from that 3 seed. It's just a matter of how far. Where do you see this team falling and why?
I think they're going to be in 5th, maybe 5th. I think is where I see them falling. I think Josto is going to be able to move up. I think Dom's going to be able to move up, and that's going to put them right in that 5th spot. I do think I'm going to leapfrog Marty. I could see me being in the 6th spot. I don't know. Thamps' team, you know, they started off really hot. They've had the same team for like 2 or 3 seasons now. They've had that chemistry going for a while. Thamps obviously saw something that he didn't like and tried to shake it up a little bit. Moving for Chewy, moving for John Monkey. So there's obviously something going on that Thamps sees that he doesn't like, that he needs to change. I don't know if they figured it out or if they're going to figure it out.
It's just a tough divide, man. And this brings me to my next team, Joey Stopa. So Joey Stopa, I mean, I could be wrong. I think Cosmic personally is one of the most creative, most game-changing players that we have in 239. I truly believe that because he can do so many things well. He creates offense. And mind you guys, I've shit on Cosmic in the past for his defensive ability. He has come a long way from what I've seen in that role. He is so much better defensively. He baits you into passes. He can really, really change the game. Trading him for Belial, man, I don't know if Cosmic was the problem, and I don't feel, and Belial's a really good player too. I just don't feel the return was enough. And I understand a shakeup, and I understand needing something different. But man, I just don't think it was enough. And I think ultimately this could end up hurting Josto. So when you look at this team, you have Desired Customs playing right D, a guy who's not accustomed to playing there. Blue Line King has been pretty good on the back end, it seems like. And him and Desired have been pretty good all year. But right now, Josto is leading your team with points with 32. Now, obviously, Belial's new. I get that. But Josto has 32 points in 25 games, okay? This team very well could start losing series left and right if Belial does not change the game like he needs to, because they're not getting any secondary scoring. What this shows and tells me is that fucking Cosmic was the offense. Cosmic was making things happen. And now you've taken that piece out of your system and you've replaced it with Belial, who, again, is a very good player. But is he going to make the impact that Cosmic does? DJ and Net looks like he's been really, really good. But I'll send this to you, Ability. Like, could you see a world where Josto's team, right now, I think they're currently in 6th seed, tied for 5th, actually, with Dominator Silva. Could you see this team falling out of the playoffs? And if you do, what will ultimately be their demise?
Whew. Well, they could maybe fall out of the playoffs. I think that it's always nice, though. I mean, being 30 games into the season, they got 34 points. Pale's got high expectations for his team to close out their season. I can say I have to agree with what he was saying. He's probably, I know they're shooting for a sweep. Even if they don't get a full sweep, they're going to get a bunch of points. So they're going to pass them. We're going to pass them. No, I don't know, but we should pass them.
I think Josto still only has to play Yambag and Mac North as well. So that's the reason I had him moving up. He's going to weaker schedule closing it out.
Team. So you segued me up. So, and obviously strength of schedule.
Hold on. I got to say this though, real quick. I want to have just this little comment here. Josto wouldn't trade Brick City, right? Wouldn't do that. Brick was untradeable. There's only one place you're going. Yeah, okay. But you trade Cosmic?
Yeah, man.
Fuck, man.
Again, I stand true to that. I think Cosmic's the top 3 player. I don't get it. I do not understand that. And that's not a shot at Belial, by the way. That is not a shot at Mr. Jaden at all. I think he's a very good player as well. I just think for Cosmic and what he's done and the consistency at which he's done it, that return needed to be higher. I think Drug really, really won that deal. I believe in shakeups. I had to do it myself. I just don't think the return was enough. That brings me on to Mac North's team. And here's the thing. I'm going to say some names here. Sea-Doo, 77. Esoteric. Surprise Me, 22. Mac North. I mean, these are guys and gals that are top of their craft. I mean, Surprise Me has been a elite scorer in this league for the last 3 seasons. Chelsea, without a shadow of a doubt, is the 1A or 1B to Drug Monkey in this league. Those are the 2 best right D in this league, in my personal opinion. Why isn't it working? You have Mac North playing center, it sounds like, getting absolutely drummed in the face-off circle, which is obviously an issue. Esoteric is not the same player that he once was. Taking him at 8 was a complete reach. It was way too early. He's more of a late second, early third now. The real test for this team, because I feel in a way with the Schwartz struggles, this is a team that if they can get a sweep in their next series, all of a sudden they have literally 24 points and they're 1 point behind Schwartz's team. I think this team has the most realistic chance of coming and making some noise, but you have to ask yourself, Surprise Me, is he the elite player that we know him as, or is he a product of the system that he has played in? Because now he's being asked to be the guy like he has been the last couple of years. And he literally, I was absolutely shocked when I saw this. He has, pulling it up, 39 points in 18 games. Now, most people, when you see 2 points a game, you're like, oh, that's not terrible. That's pretty good, blah, blah, blah. But a guy like Surprise Me, who's had over 100 points, each of his first 3 seasons, to be struggling in this bad, it doesn't really make sense. Dolly, what do you think of Mac's team, top to bottom? I know you have a little bit of invested interest in this with the fiance, but what do you think the struggles have been with this team so far, and why can't they figure it out?
I think this team in particular was a product of not putting the correct puzzle pieces together to start the season. Think back to how Surprise Me got all of his points. Like the last 3 seasons, who did he play with? The same people. He played with Pogs all 3 seasons. When you go and you put that guy with a whole different group of people and forward, and we all know how Surprise Me's offense ran. Pogs would outlet the puck to him, almost cherry picking, and he would go down the right side and he would try and pull up and get past the defender and either go and shoot short side, or they would throw a turd and crash the net. That can only work so long and with the right people following the same system. When you got a guy like Mac who's trying to be a bit more creative, or when you got who else did they have? They had Agent, who doesn't usually run that style. It's gonna your play's gonna suffer. Now he's being relied on as a guy to spontaneously create like more creativity for his teammates. You need a guy to carry your offense that's going to come down and do something different every play, get people thinking, change it up. When Surprise Me is the only person running that same type of system, well, people just have to watch Surprise Me, because when they throw the turds, no one's there to crash the net, which means no one's there to get the goals for him to get the points, to get the fucking trophies. You know what I mean? So that offense isn't built properly. Esso has got an unfortunate depression issue when it comes to NHL games, and I really think it's taken a huge toll on his confidence. He has the button skill. I just don't know if he has the will to do it anymore. And as for Chelsea, I mean, she's trying her ass off back there. And Bob, God bless his soul, has been traded to Yam's team and back to play goalie I mean, they have good pieces, but how many games can you lose in a frustrating season with BBX not talking and acting like a douchebag before you start giving up? You know, like if I was Chelsea right now, I mean, I would have a difficult time getting on to play my series and wanting to play my best after the season that she's experienced. Now she's been great and she keeps doing her best, but this is a team that has had a lot of issues and it just hasn't come together at all.
Has BBX been AIDS this year?
He was playing center. He would not talk to his entire team. He wouldn't tell them anything. He's LB'd in the offensive zone. He's dove around like an idiot. I mean, he's done some shit. And then he goes to Yam's team, of course, and doesn't say a word and is an angel, right? Yeah, he knows how to hit the game, bud.
Well, I guess it's so. I obviously have heard the inklings that James, who by the way I was on a whole season with, had no issues at all. Great guys by all accounts. But this seems to be buzzing around a little bit. I hope it's not true. Maybe he's just frustrated on another bad season, and maybe it was a bad night. But for whatever reason, this seems to be something that's buzzed around. So hopefully, he can figure that out. I don't think he's on that team anymore. Didn't he get traded off Mac's team?
He's on Yam's team now.
Yam's team, where he's an angel, and that's what I'm saying. Of course.
I've heard this about BBX. Again, I can't. Maybe it's because of who I am or whatever, but on my team, he was, I guess, angel would be the word. I mean, we sucked. We were bad, and he showed up and played hard and, talked and did the whole thing. So maybe he's playing the game. I'm not sure. But, again, communication is key, especially when struggling. I'm going to give my guys a plug right now, man. Quantum has been there with me through the whole shit this year, through the whole fucking shit. He's been there and he shows up. He plays hard. Shot got traded from a team that was literally number one at the time to my shitter. And he's out there talking, trying to practice every single day. This is important, man. And you got to remember something. Like, you are always being scouted. Always, always, always. Your actions speak louder than words, and you are crazy. In a league this small and this close, that if you don't think every single person hears about every single thing that everybody does, it's just a reality, and you need to have that certain image. Yes, you need to have thick skin, but if you are a shitter and you are a piece of shit, like you won't get drafted. I think there's a reason. I'm starting to see it now. Certain players who you're like, man, he's really good. Why did he fall? How did he fall? You start to ask yourself, what's their personality like? Are they someone that people are like, you know what, he's good, I just don't want to fucking deal with it. Like, I just don't want to deal with his shit. So guys and gals, I mean, keep that in mind when you're out there. Like, listen, seasons are short. NHL 19 is right around the fucking corner. Don't jeopardize getting drafted because you want to be a piece of shit or because you're upset by the situation you're in. Nobody likes fucking losing. Not a goddamn soul likes to fucking get drummed 7-1. 9-1. Nobody likes that. But just keep in mind, like, if you're in it for the long haul, everything you do is monitored and watched. We all talk. Everybody talks here. It's just something that happens. So I want to touch on one more team, man. I want to touch on Drug Monkey's team, and then we're going to cut her short. I know there's some big series tonight, man. My boys are waiting for me. I want to get this thing going. I got Agent making his fucking debut tonight, but he can't make it to the fucking show. He's been asking to be on my goddamn team for like a year and a half, and he's finally here. He no-shows the show. Embarrassing. But I want to talk about Drug Monkey's team, and here's a team outside of Mac's team that really does have a chance as well, but it starts tonight. It's a big night. He's got Cosmic, who he picked up in that trade, and he needed a change. I thought he 100% won this trade. He's got Cosmic, I'm Not Your Dad, USMC, Headless Fragoo, Drug Monkey, Rye Guy I know hasn't been around. I think he picked Cabriolet up. His roster is a bit shambled, man. If you guys remember All the Way, who, by the way, not to give this guy any fucking time because he is a big piece of shit, but this was a homie of Drugs. They're homies, like they're friends, and All the Way decided to fuck him, and I take a little bit of blame for this because season 2 he was sketchy, man, and maybe that should have been a lost app. Shout out to Yam. Maybe that should have been a lost app, but Drugs got a chance here, but it starts tonight. They're playing an XDALY squad. I just look at the roster. I just don't think it's enough, but I'll send it to you, Pale. You're a Drug Monkey guy. You know the kind of skill that he has on the back end. Is this a team that could make a noise and possibly make a run here late?
I mean, I think that they've got a good group of players now. I think Caberlet helps the team. He's the guy that, was just picked up midseason, kind of made an exception for him because of the circumstances that surrounded that drug monkey team with All the Way and Sabby and Rye Guy and everything else. He made a trade for Estradios. Estradios is another guy that can play in this league at a high level. I got to play with him for half this season, and he's a guy that I really enjoyed playing with. He's a guy that knows how to put the puck in the net. So we'll see. I think it's going to be tough. If he makes it, it's going to be tough because I think the teams at the top are kind of starting to fall down, and the teams that are like on that bubble are starting to make the playoff push. So it kind of doesn't lead to a place where a 9 or a 10 or 11 seed that right now is able to move up when you got the guys that already have the points in hand going down and the guys that are right on that bubble moving up.
Ability, I'm going to send this last team to you, man. This roster does absolutely nothing for me. I think there's too many holes. That's Jelly's roster. You got Jelly, D-Swish, Nexus, Bubba Man, Swag, Elliotism, who looks like he hasn't played more than 3 games since getting moved over there. Master Shotgun. The only piece that really stands out to me on the squad is Master Shotgun. I've heard Nexus and the rumblings. He literally hates this game now. He's having struggles and issues and just can't stand it anymore. You have Jelly, who's being asked to be the guy. Swagger's been quiet, which means there's been a struggle when he's not talking. When he was on Cortez's team and they were tearing shit up, Kiefer's my boy, but you hear him. When he goes quiet, shit is not going good, because when things are good, man, Swagger is up. You hear him. But when shit is bad, it is quiet in the land of Keith. And we laugh, but man, that's the fucking reality. I'm the same way. Like, what do you have to talk shit about? You guys haven't heard from me in 2 fucking seasons. Why? Because my teams have been shitters, absolute fucking shitters. That's why, but it's the reality. So when you're up there, man, sometimes you got to be humble when it's bad. And I think Kiefer does a good job of that, man. Cause you're not talking shit when you're down. You gotta stay quiet, and I know better than anybody, but Ability, this roster, man, even with the young Eminem himself, D-Swish, they're not getting it done. Right.
No, man. Basically, D-Swish just skates around like a skeleton. I think Jelly's been doing what he can. He's leading the way with 61 points, and hey, give D-Swish little props. I mean, he's got 31. He's trying to contribute. I don't know the deal with Swag because in all honesty, to make that team be a contender, Swag's got to be on his game. He's got to come through in the clutch for these guys, or else, I mean, they might as well just pack it up and hit the golf course. Shotgun, I know that, he's been hanging in there this whole season, and, I give him, a big shout out here because he's earned it. I mean, it looks like from what I'm seeing that this could have been a tough squad to be on this season. With that being said, I mean, they're right in the mix, right? So, I don't know. I don't know what they can pull out of their hat that can propel them into a playoff. But I've seen stupider shit. So I don't want to say it, man. Sometimes all you got to do is mention a person's name on the Throwdown, and all of a sudden, boom, they start winning games. So we'll see. We'll see what these guys have to offer. Nexus, and he's gonna have to play lights out too. So I don't know.
And I do apologize. I actually forgot Dom's team, so we're gonna backtrack. Here's the thing: I praised them in saying that I thought they were going to end up being the number 3 seed, but we didn't actually break their team down.
Hold on, I got this one. I had a conversation earlier, and I believe that what was said to me was that Dolly and Dom's team, hold on, let me rephrase this. Dolly is going to win. Dom's team is going to win it all. And that's all there is to it because Dolly's a winner.
Listen, was that the Throwdown? Listen, there's one thing. We're all animated. We really are. If we believe in it, man, it's going to be an argument. It's a thing. But Dolly and Ability had some words earlier, man. I loved it. But here's the reality of this team. And Dolly kind of broke the roster down earlier. You have Dalai Lama at left wing, Pogs at center, who's arguably one of the better 2-way guys in the league. Dominator Silva has moved up to right wing, and that was able to be done because the Shea trade, getting Pogs, getting Rocco, moving him back to defense. And is it Finney and Kelchi are splitting, or Finney and Rybish splitting time on lefty? Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And then you have obviously Thompson Net, who, I know people will make the argument for Cripps, but, obviously Thompson's the top guy. Heard there was a little drama the other night. Tomps, don't be a faggot. Like, seriously, I got to come on here and do this shit. Like, you know what you fucking did. Stop with all the free. Listen, I like you, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this my way. I fucking like you. I like you. I do. You were on my team. You were great. You always gave 60, but don't start this free fucking Woolen shit. Like, don't start that shit up. That thing is in the past. Like, don't be a cunt. That's all I'm asking from you. Show up, play your games, man. Get your fucking chirps in, but don't be a fucking piece of shit, because you're not one. I know you're not, but don't act like one. Anyways, and I guess that's all been settled, and that's all I'm going to say on it. But, Pale, when you look at this roster, man, this is a team I really think can compete. I think Dolly is a guy that can really change the game at forward. People are going to look at his points and be like, oh, he's only averaging 2 points. But these guys play defense first, and they really, really make you grind out, and they capitalize on your mistakes. And I think that's the big thing for it. I think their point totals are going to go up. Look at Pogs on this team, 14 games played, 35 points. That tells me that since getting over there, the offense seems to really be clicking. This is a team I think can beat you, and I really, really do. I think they have the best goaltender in the league. Lefty, I don't know a ton about, so I guess that would be like my question mark. I get to see this team next week, so I can probably talk about it a little bit better next week. But when you look at this team, Pale, is this a team that can really make some noise come playoff time?
Yeah, I think they're going to move up in the standings for the rest of the season, and I think they're going to make some noise in the playoffs. Whether they go far or not, who knows? We're a league that's had a lot of upsets in the past, especially the past couple of seasons. So, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, Finney and Rybish are two players that can play in this league. They're good defenders. And they've got a great goalie behind them. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Pogs, Dolly, Dom, they're all good defensive players, and they're going to play a sound defensive structure. So we'll see.
Well, Dolly, you want to touch on your team? I know it's always a weird thing, but do you want to talk on your team? Or I know you and Ability had a little bit of mess earlier. If you want to get it out, man, let them know.
There was no mess. I was simply stating that I'm going to win the belt. And that's all that really matters.
Listen, this has been the year, the season, right? Because what do we do? 4 seasons in a year. This has been the season of confidence. I mean, you got Brian with a Y. By the way, to me, season 8 champs, literally the most unique thing I've ever seen, the most arrogant thing I've ever seen, but also the most unique thing I ever seen. You have Dolly live on the Throwdown saying that the belt is theirs. I love it. I love the confidence, man. It's going to make for a really interesting 2 weeks. I'll be honest, our summer seasons are always fun. Last summer season was the season of XDALY. That was the season 4 belt run. Dolly, you obviously know about that because you're a winner. But the summer seasons always seem to have that little bit of extra juice. Don't ask me why, but it always does. So let's send it around the horn here. Pale, you got anything on the way out?
Yeah, I'm going to win the belt.
Oh, my God. I love it. Wait a second. Excuse me. Dolly, would you like to add anything else on the way out?
And I'll share it with Pale. It's fine.
Okay. Listen, I don't think that's street legal, but we'll allow it. Ability, would you like to say anything on the way out?
I'm not saying I'm going to win the belt. Okay. So I just want to say we got a tough rest of the season.
I'd go with Schwartz.
Yeah. Schwartz. I pick Schwartz. Schwartz picks Schwartz. Everybody should pick Schwartz. Okay. No, we got a tough end of the season here, and everyone needs to play their ass off, because the last thing you want to do is give somebody, and I don't care if these words come back to bite me in the ass, okay? I'll say that right now. I don't care. Just don't give anybody a free pass into the playoffs, man. Even if you think your team's out, even if you're doubting yourself in the back of your mind, because some of you bubble teams probably are, stick it out, grind it out, get your team going, start some practices, and get out there and kick some ass. I mean this wholeheartedly, because a lot can happen in these closing games.
I'll go out here. I'll say something, man. I don't know if my team makes the playoffs, but we have good morale going right now. if we don't make it, we're going to come awfully close. We're going to come awfully close. I really, really believe that. I got a good group of guys and we're all ready. So be interesting to see what happens. But that's been another edition of the Thursday Throwdown. As always, I am your host, X to the D, to the A, to the L, to the Y. Dom, you see the old Kessel jersey, man? We love the fat guys here. We love the fat guys in the daily household. So that's always a thing. I got mad respect for anybody who can smash their face with food. So thanks for tuning in. Again, we're going to get that promoting and stuff back up. You know, summer's been rough for all of us, but, you know, come winter time, you know, we're going to get back in our routine. We're going to get back in our rhythm. We're going to be good to go. So until next time, it's been another edition of Throwdown. Now, another edition of the Throwdown of the Thursday Throwdown. Everybody have a great night. Peace out.
Peace.